welcome once again to this edition of Paratisol webinars. Now we have the pleasure to announce Lucía Arocena, and she holds a teaching degree awarded by the International House of Montevideo. She also holds a degree in sociology at Universidad de la República Oriental del Uruguay and a master's degree in corporate social responsibility, Universidad José Camila Cela. As regards to her employment history, she worked as a teacher for more than 8 years in PLS in schools. In 2011, she started working at Oxford University Press Uruguay as an educational consultant, and in 2014, she became an area coordinator for Oxford University Press Uruguay in Paraguay. Please welcome Lucía. Lucía, all yours.
So, great. Thank you, Paratisol, for giving Oxford University Press the opportunity to participate in this event. Thank you, Carolina and Patricia, for giving OUP this virtual space. And thank you all for attending this presentation on a Saturday afternoon. I have seen that there are people from Peru, from Mexico, from Bahía Blanca, from Argentina, from Uruguay as well, and everybody from Paraguay, so it's wonderful to be here for me. And today, we'll go through this relevant topic that affects us all, which is teacher well-being. The goal for the next 45 minutes is to give you the opportunity to reflect on some aspects of your well-being. Since the mics will be off during the presentation, and I still want to do the presentation interactive, I suggest that you grab pen and paper so that you can do the reflection exercises I will be suggesting throughout. Also, any comments, Vicente is going to call them out. So any comments that you have, you write them on the chat box, and Vicente is going to call them out, because I do not have the possibility of looking at your comments, okay? Good. So as this session is all about teacher well-being, so to get started, we will be reconnecting with our love of teaching. So please take 30 seconds to think about these questions on the slide. Why did you become a teacher? Which aspects of teaching do you love? And what do you find rewarding about teaching? So just 30 seconds to start reflecting about the topic, okay? Good, thank you. So I don't know if anybody wants to share. So it would be wonderful if you could tell us about your experience, and if Vicente can call your comments out, it would be wonderful. I don't know, somebody, a brave person.
Your comments in the chat, please.
If you want to comment, of course.
I love to be a teacher. I became a teacher by accident, but being at the right place at the right time. I didn't quite choose teaching. It was just happened.
Okay.
Seeing the process, I is in love with the language, and I didn't want to forget it. I became a teacher, and by an accident also. I love interacting with people and progress in kids and learning, open doors at other young people. It was one of my childhood dreams.
Wow, okay. So many different reasons why people became teachers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no matter
they keep
why
on writing.
we became... Okay. I'm going to continue, okay? Because there are plenty of opportunities to participate, okay? Good. So no matter why we became teachers or educators, or how rewarding our time in the classroom may be, 2019 Teacher Wellbeing Index revealed that the 78% of all education professionals experience behavioral, psychological, or physical symptoms due to their work, while work-related stress has increased for the third years in a row. So this is really worrying, okay? And please bear in mind that this data belongs to 2019, so it was before the pandemic. So imagine how this percentage must have increased after the coronavirus stops or goes away, right? So now we are going to cover the aims of the session. In today's session, we will explore what teacher well-being is and why it matters, the elements that affect our well-being, and strategies for working on teacher well-being. So, please take 30 seconds to briefly read the quote from the book Teacher Wellbeing, written by Mercer and Gregersen, published by Oxford University Press. So, most teachers teach because they want to help other people, typically their students. And education is a service industry, and teachers care passionately about the work, about what they do. However, there is a risk in doing this, right? So do you agree with this quote from Mercer and Gregersen? Do you think that there is a risk in here? So if anybody wants to comment on this, Vicente can call this out.
Burnout is a risk.
Burnout, exactly.
Yes, because you forget about yourself. Yes, it is a risk. Everybody have a coincidence on that aspect. The quality of your work may suffer too.
Exactly, yeah, that's true, yes. So I wrote down some possible answers. So, for example, we know that teachers take their commitment too far. I don't know any teacher that doesn't commit to her or his job. So also, we adopt different roles besides from teaching. For example, when I used to work as a teacher, I used to be sometimes the psychologist of parents. So I did my work as a teacher, but I was also the psychologist of the parents. I don't know if that happens to you. I also took work home. I work many more hours than what I should or what I was supposed to. I even spent my own money to buy materials for the classroom and many other things that we do and we are not supposed to. But of course we do it because we love what we do, okay? So now we are going to move to well-being. What exactly is well-being? Well-being is the state of being comfortable, healthy, and happy. While we often put our work and our students first, it is very important to remember to take time for ourselves in and outside the classroom. Why is it? Because if you're in good health mentally and physically, you're better able to cope with the challenges of teaching. So we need to strategize. When you feel positive, you're more open to new ideas, creativity, and change, making you more effective and innovative in the classroom. So we need to energize. Because when you feel good, your students feel better. And when your students feel better, you feel better. So we need to inspire. And because healthy and happy teachers don't burn out. So this has to do with what somebody said before. So we need to prevail. This is a continuation of the previous quote, okay? It says, being a dedicated language educator should not come at the expense of one's own well-being. So while it's true that we care for our students, when we compromise ourselves, we are not longer able to give. So we should know where to stop. Mercer and Gregersen, on the book Wellbeing, published by Oxford University Press, suggests 5 areas that impact teacher well-being. The areas are physical and emotional health, relationships, mindset and motivation, workplace, and future. So let's focus first on physical and emotional health. Teaching is exhausting, emotional, and hard work. We all know that. So first and foremost, we need to make sure we are taking care of our physical and emotional health. Ensure that we remember to focus on this area will keep us ready for the classroom and everything else that comes along with teaching. The next one is relationships. So we also need to take into account the impact of our relationships with students, with colleagues, with parents, with managers, and also in our personal lives, because that can have a huge impact on our well-being and also how we manage our well-being. Then the way we think about our teaching, the way we approach it, and the motivations that drive our behavior are also an integral part on top of our well-being. And finally, we need to consider the impact of our workplace and our own plans for the future. I really want to point out the workplace, because I think that's the element that changed the most in the past 5 or 6 months. Because we used to be at school, that was our workplace, or in the Language Institute, but that isn't anymore. Our workplace today is home, or Zoom, which is now, we are all the time on Zoom. So that is our workplace right now. So that has changed a lot, and we had to adapt ourselves. So let's now focus on one of the elements, which is emotional health, it is the first one, right? So we know that emotional health impacts our well-being. Teachers are human, and humans are emotional. So here are 27 emotions in the cloud. Yes. Some emotions are positive, some emotions are negative. So I would like you now to take one emotion, that you have experienced in the classroom, okay? Try to think why this emotion arose and think about the context. So if anybody would like, after reflection, would like to share, it would be wonderful, okay? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to choose one emotion and think why that emotion arose, okay?
Angered when the internet connection failed.
Yeah, right. An internet connection, I understand that in Paraguay, it's a really great thing.
One of the worst, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. And depends on the area where you are in.
Especially.
Asunción is much better, but then you go to other areas and it's not. Exactly. And it starts getting worse. Sorry?
Yes, the countryside is worse.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, yeah. So, anybody else who wants to share?
Concern when students don't know what to do. Optimism when my students show how enthusiastic they are about this way of learning. Yes, frustration for each issues. Yeah. Frustrations because sometimes I couldn't just finish my class plans. Happiness at the end of a good activity. Frustration, parents do not support your work.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah.
Optimism when students are sharing among them. Fear of losing my job because some students enroll from schools and from the institute.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. So we are now going later on to see some techniques in order to not to focus on these negative emotions, because I think that from 8 emotions that you mentioned, Vicente, I think that 2 were positive and the rest were negative. So I can see that something negative is in the air, right?
We keep on writing, but we need to move on.
I think we need to move on, yes.
Okay.
Just one more and
one
we
more. I
move
get
on.
angry when the students don't answer their pieces of homework.
Yeah. So as you can see, there are plenty.
Yes. When I have to start teaching in a new group.
It's true. Totally true. Yes. Yes, I agree. Yes. So we cannot avoid experiencing emotions in the workplace, positive or negative. However, we can learn something from every emotion we feel. So the key to well-being is not to ignore negative emotions or only to focus on the positives, but to give ourselves space to experience what we feel, even though if it's good or bad. The authors Ford, Lamb, and Mouse in 2018 state that when you experience a negative emotion, the best idea is to acknowledge it, to reflect on it, then accept that it's okay for us to have a negative feeling. By doing this, we can avoid allowing a moment of negative emotion to overcome us. So it's okay to feel this negativity in a way. So now I'm going to share with you a strategy, a technique suggested by Barbara Fredrickson. It's called the positivity portfolio. Yes, the idea is that we use this technique in order to improve our emotional health. So this technique is a physical or digital folder where you can store any of the notes, emails, pictures that give you a positive testimony of your teaching. So negativity is going to affect you. So keeping a portfolio like this gives you a place to turn when things feel overwhelming, or when you're doubting yourself, when you think that you weren't born for that, okay? You weren't meant to be a teacher. And everything is going to remind us how valued we are and how we are making a difference. So I think that this positivity portfolio is very useful. And of course, we have now computers, so we can have this digital portfolio. Just keep a file on your computer and store everything that will come up very handy when negative feelings arise, okay? So we have already looked at this positive portfolio, and I would like to show you another technique or a strategy that will help us also to cope with this emotional health. So this strategy is based on Stephen Covey's circle of concern and control. I don't know if you have ever read his book, but what he says is that he presents the concept of circle of concern, okay? So the circle of concern includes the wide range of concerns you have in the world, your work and life. For example, you include in your circle of concern, you include your health, you include your family, you include the finances, the economy, the national debt, etc. Right? And everything you include inside the circle is a concern and matters to you, and everything outside the circle is of little or no concern to you, okay? As you can see in the slide, we have the circle of concern, and outside the circle of concern, what doesn't concern us. The challenge is that you start realizing that some of the things you find yourself concerned about are outside of our control and somehow are part of our realm control, right? So let's look at an example. Everything that it's inside the circle is of my concern. right? Everything that is outside the circle is out of my concern. So inside the circle, there are concerns we can control and we can do something about, and outside the circle, things that do not concern about, okay? But inside, we have things I am concerned about and I can do something about, and things I cannot do anything about, okay? I think I don't know if I mixed you, but that's a concept, okay? So for example, I'm concerned about the weather, taxes, inflation, economy, the traffic, but I do not have any influence on them unless I am the president of a country, okay? Right? However, I have influence on my spending or on who my friends are or how I spend my free time. So there is where I should focus on. So Covey says, why focusing on concerns we cannot control or do anything about? So my suggestion in order to improve our emotional health is to use the circles, okay? But how? By letting go those aspects in life I cannot control, and by focusing on those aspects I can control. For example, let's take coronavirus, okay? A topic that it's everywhere and on TV, everywhere around. So we can't control coronavirus spreading in Latin America, of course. However, we can minimize, each of us can minimize the possibility of catching the virus by washing hands, by wearing face masks, by keeping a social distance, etc., etc. So I suggest also using the circles with students in the classroom, like by selecting one topic, okay, that concerns us, and try to identify which aspects of that concern we can control and what aspects of that concern we cannot control, okay? So now I would like you to take 1 minute to come up with one concern in your professional lives. Let's not talk about our personal lives now, but our professional lives that concerns us, and try to identify what aspects are under our control and what isn't under our control, okay? So 1 minute to reflect, and then we can share.
Some of the comments very quickly. Returning to classes to attend at school, the number of classes students sign up. Interesting classes is part of my concern. Under my control is time management. Parents are beyond our control.
And for example, one of the
not
concerns
under my
which
control,
is,
for example, is the time we'll return to school. Can you control my planning? I can control my planning, but I cannot control the parents.
yeah, yes. Yeah. But okay, so what are we going to do? We cannot control the parents' attitude. So that is something that we are going to leave aside. We are not going to focus. We are going to let go. We are really going to focus on the aspects that we can control, which is what we do as teachers. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the comments are, I can control the way we work at school. I carry out how much they have to study at home. And now I can, well, let's concentrate on the positives, right? On the ones that we are going to control. I'm waiting for some other comments. time management, as I said, is under my control. I can
Yeah,
control somehow the time I spend on the computer or on the cell phone. I can be on time in class and with a positive attitude. The learners'
exactly.
schedules with other classes.
Okay, so I
For the
suggest,
moment, yes.
yeah, okay, good, thank you,
Uh-huh.
Vicente. So I suggest that we do this exercise, this reflection exercise. Let's take those things that concern us, try to identify which of the aspects of that concern we can control, the ones that we can't control, and let go, okay? So that we, that the emotional health is not so much affected. Yes?
Yes.
So let's move now to the next element that the authors mention, which affects our well-being, which is physical health. We are going to do a reflection exercise that can help us improve, okay, our physical health, and this is called the health triangle. So I invite you to not to do this exercise now, but just to copy the health triangle, just in case you want to try it later on. So in each section, you write down what you do to look after yourselves in each area in a typical week, okay? Next, you identify which areas you could be doing more for yourselves and come up with one concrete thing you could do to improve your physical well-being, okay? Not to do now, but just for you to take and to reflect later on. So I also suggest trying the health triangle with your own students as a language activity. This will also help our students to improve the physical health. And a harmonious relationship between teachers and students will contribute enormously to the teacher well-being. So if you feel that it's appropriate to do it in the classroom, in the virtual classroom, you may try it, okay? So let's move now to relationships. So the second element that impacts our well-being are relationships. So as individuals, we have many relationships that impact on our ability to perform well and feel well. However, one of the most important, and the one we will focus on today, is the relationship between teacher and students, which is the one that we care for, okay? Research done by Rofi, he's an author, in 2011, has shown that positive interaction between the teachers and the students leads to lower levels of teacher burnout, fewer discipline problems, positive group dynamics, and more effective learning. So improving relationships with learners makes teachers' job easier and less stressful. So Dornier and Malderès, or whatever we pronounce those surnames, you can find them on the slide, yes. In Jane Arnold's book called Affect in Language Teaching, written in 1999, suggests 5 strategies that may help teachers to foster a positive interaction between teacher and students, okay? So I'm going to read the strategies through. First of all, encourage cohesion through routines and collaboration. Use icebreakers to put learners at ease. Promote peer relationships via pair and group work. Personalize language tasks. And encourage learner autonomy. So I would like you to go over the strategies and, of course, tell to the rest of the participants if you already used the strategies and how they work. So if you'd like to give some feedback, some comments on this, you're invited. You're welcome.
Some of them says we can do this exercise with our students too. It will help us know our learners better.
Yeah, totally true. Yes.
I encourage learners' autonomy.
Exactly. Yes. So do you use these strategies? Is it something that you do already, or it's something that you mean to do it in the future?
Let's wait for some of the answers. To have a good group to work with, it helps them a lot. I encourage learners to grade their own performances.
Excellent.
I encourage learners' autonomy.
Yeah, that's very important. It's
personalize learners' tasks because I work with adolescents. I promote good work. I encourage my students to get autonomy themselves. I try to keep in mind when planning, but time is limited.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. And now we have all this challenge of doing it virtually and everything. But, well, I'm very happy and very pleased to know that you have already incorporated these strategies, even though I assume that most of you haven't read Affecting Language Learning, but you already do it intuitively. So it's wonderful to know. So the next element that affects our teacher well-being is mindset. So now we are going to focus on this special area, which is mindset. I don't know if you know what it means, but it is an individual belief about whether skills, knowledge, or abilities are something that can be changed or not. I give you an example. I have a fixed mindset about learning how to play tennis. I can't do it and I will never learn. I had a terrible experience with a tennis teacher and I got frustrated and I have never returned, okay? So I have a fixed mindset about learning how to play tennis. However, I have a growth mindset about learning Portuguese. I'm rather good at languages, so I think I will be able to learn, okay? Can you see the difference, right? So let's read the statements in the slide, which may help us understand better your mindset, okay? So please take 30 seconds to read all the statements. Okay, good. After reading, I would like you to decide which reflects a fixed mindset and which reflects a growth mindset, okay? If you want to comment, you can write it on the chat box, and Vicente is going to share with the rest. So which of the statements reflects a fixed mindset and which reflects a growth mindset?
For growth, we have 1, 3, and 4, 2 and 5, fixed. Number 2, fixed. Fixed 2 and 5, 1, 3, 4, growth.
Excellent, yes, exactly, yes. So 2 and 5 reflects a fixed mindset, while 1, 3, and 4 reflect a growth mindset. So everyone has areas of their lives where their mindset is fixed and areas where there are more growth mindsets, okay? It is important to recognize the areas of your life which you subconsciously believe to be unchangeable. Generally, in adults, mindsets don't change easily, and it's important to remember that changing the way you think is a process that will happen over time. Even though it's going to take time, it's going to happen, okay? So this is a great activity also for raising awareness of your mindsets and sparking the motivation to change them. So now, having the statements there, I would like you to give it a score, okay? So if you agree with a statement, you're going to put it a 1. 1 means strongly agree. If you disagree, if you strongly disagree, you're going to give it a 5, okay? So by doing this, we will discover if we have a fixed mindset or if we have a growth mindset, okay? Then we can share.
Some of the answers are 3 and 5, 3, but also with 5. 1 equals 80.
For example, okay. Somebody wants to share if they have discovered that they have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Of course, we have different mindsets for different areas in life, as I have already said, right? But as regards to these statements in particular.
In case of number 1, I get my learners to teach me the way they practice their instructions, given skills, and I learn too. I have a bit
That's
of
wonderful.
both.
Okay. That's a growth mindset. Because you are assuming that even though they are helping you, you know that you can improve or you can do something about. Yes. Somebody else?
Number 1, also, I'm open to be taught. My students teach me as well. Most of them agree
Very
with
good.
number 1.
That's a growth mindset. Good. Any of you have discovered that you have a fixed mindset towards any of the statements?
One comment says, I think it depends on the situation. We just have to focus on growing as much as possible.
Yeah, totally agree. Yes, yes. But in general terms, to have a positive attitude and the attitude to learn, because that's what it's all about. Very good for your feedback, okay? So we'll continue. So in the web, there are plenty of worksheets to use with your students to raise awareness of their mindset, okay? At the bottom of the slide, you'll find a link, which I'm going to share later on the chat box. And I have found this worksheet very interesting to work with my students. So students should read the different statements and decide if that is growth mindset or fixed mindset. For example, I'm not good at this, so that's fixed mindset. I love challenges, that's growth mindset. And that the idea is to work the mindset with the students as well, not just with us to try to reflect upon this, but also to work with our students. So the next element that may impact on our teacher well-being is motivation. So as the quote says, when our motivation is high, we can be the best version of ourselves as educators. We have the energy to do our jobs with vigor and enthusiasm. I would like to know if you have experienced this in your teaching. Have you ever felt really vigorous and enthusiastic? Have you ever felt really demotivated and without energy to do anything? So if you'd like to share, I would love to know about your experience.
Several yes for your question.
Okay, hope that the yes goes for that you feel enthusiastic and really vigorous.
I usually feel good at the beginning of the year. Of course, both. It depends on how your class goes. And terrible around exam times. Yes, most of the
Yeah,
time I really believe in motivation, of course, and so on.
very good. Thank you. So, of course, somebody said there that it depends, okay? So I agree. If someone asks you how motivated you're as a teacher, your answers are likely to change depending on the day you had, the tasks you are doing, and so on. Our motivation levels change constantly, okay? So one useful model for understanding our motivation in the classroom is the expectancy value model, written by Wickfield and Eccles in 2000. So the first part of the model, expectancy, yes, concerns our expectations for success and whether or not we believe we can succeed. So we are generally more motivated when we believe what we are doing is achievable and we feel competent to do the task at hand. The second part of the model, which is a value, is all attainment value, or the importance of doing well at it, okay? Then we have intrinsic value, which is how much you enjoy doing something, yes? We have utility value, which is how useful the task seems to you. Costs, or what you lose by doing it, okay? And okay, attainment value I have already mentioned, okay? So the values look at these four factors that we can see there. So those are really, really important when it comes to motivation. Good. So the teaching bucket list, we are still in motivation. So motivation can be seen as the need to keep moving forward. And one strategy that can help us to maintain our drive and passion for teaching is to set goals for ourselves. So I guess that you already know the concept of bucket list. Well, the bucket list means it's a list of things that we want to achieve before dying, okay? We are not going to do a bucket list now, but we are going to do a teaching bucket list, okay? So what does the teaching bucket list consist of? The first step is to make a list of things you would like to achieve in the classroom this year. It might be trying out a new activity, learning more about something that interests you, or learning how to use a new app or piece of technology. The next step is to ensure that each item of the list is achievable. Remember the expectancy value model, okay? If it's not achievable, it's not going to motivate us. Next, for each of the items, you should list the steps you can take towards this. And finally, you should make a note of what success would look like. For example, I will have succeeded when I can embed videos in my classroom presentations. Is it clear? So keep this list, this teaching bucket list, somewhere you will be able to refer to later on. For example, your desk, okay, your drawer, your desk drawer, or a file in a computer, and you refer to it to measure your progress. So achieving the goals will help you build your motivation, okay? So we have, let me check time. Yes, we have reached the end of the session, and so there are 4 key things I would like you to take home today, okay? So firstly, the first concept, teachers need to focus on both the personal and the professional lives, how much you sleep, what you eat, if there is a balance between your work and your life. Those things are very important, okay? Also, it is healthy to put yourself first. Another idea I want you to take home: by taking care of yourself, you're a better teacher. And when you're a happy teacher, productive and motivated, it will rub off on your students. And finally, remember that when the teachers burn out forming, you're not alone. Remember that many people, many teachers are on your same situation. We know that teaching is an incredibly stressful profession, as we have already seen in the first slides about the teaching index, okay? So share, or feel free to share your concerns and your feelings with someone you trust, with other teachers, with your colleagues, etc. Right? So if you would be interested in going deeper into this topic, I invite you to access the Learn at Home website, which was designed, of course, by Oxford University Press, where you find webinars, articles, and blogs about teacher well-being. Okay? So as you can see, there are three main areas: one for teachers, one for parents, and one for students. So you'll find thousands of resources about teacher well-being, and of course about other topics. So please join, and also encourage your students and the parents to join as well. So everything is for free. So I think it's really worth to take benefit of this. Okay, I'm going to copy the link of the Learn at Home website in the chat box so that you can have it. Okay. And these are the links I have shared with you throughout the presentation. The first link will redirect you to the Teacher's Wellbeing Index I have talked about at the beginning. The second link will redirect you to the website, where you can find worksheets for your students to raise their mindset awareness. Remember, the ones that they had to tick. And the third link will redirect you to the Learn at Home website we have already seen, we have just seen, right?